Now, when we talk about dressing and so forth, one of the things that sort of exploded the other day on social media was there was a girl, a teacher, who was an elementary school teacher, and she started posting up pictures, and there's this huge debate on whether or not she's dressing appropriately for, her job. I'm going to show you this. Can you see this?
Yes, I can see that.
Are you familiar with this picture?
No, I haven't seen it.
Okay, so this is a teacher who's an elementary school teacher, and people are just arguing over whether she's dressed appropriately. A lot of people are saying yes, and in the context they're saying, yeah, and I would get with her, which I think is not really part of the conversation.
Right.
Me personally, I feel that she's not dressed appropriately.
Mm-hmm.
What is your take on it, being an educator yourself?
I would argue, number one, that the way she's dressed is relatively conservative when compared to the way I see many teachers dress, white or African American. Okay. One of the biggest issues I have had as a principal, and I've had to pull some of my teachers to the side, black and white and Latino, you cannot come in here like this, okay? Because these boys are at the age, middle school in particular. See, the other question I would have for you is how old are her students? If she is
elementary school, so up to 5th grade.
Okay, up to 5th, I might not have a problem with that up to 5th. If she's middle school, 6th through 8th, she cannot dress like that. Because her body parts are obviously, she's a well-built woman. The dress in and of itself isn't provocative, but her figure in that dress makes it provocative. K to 5, I don't have a problem with that. 6th to 8th, 6th to 12th, I got an issue with that. But here's the conversation. Why is she allowed to dress like that if it is inappropriate for the parents in that school? Because I think the parents in that school ultimately have to make that decision. The reason she gets to dress like that is because the American Federation of Teachers and the National Education Association, these are the two largest teacher unions in America. They are the Democratic and Republican Party of education. Every school district, most school districts are under one or the other. They have bullied the school districts of America into this contract that's been around at least for 30 years that says you cannot tell a teacher how to dress for work. It is the only profession I know of, education, and I'm an educator, where teachers cannot be told how to dress. Now, private school, they can tell them, but publicly funded schools, you cannot tell the teacher how to dress.
So you're saying in every public school across the country, there is no dress code for the teachers?
85% of the time, no, if that district is under AFT or NEA. One of the beauties of being a teacher, one of the powers of the union is that we get to dress how we want. In a conversation I have with principals all the time is my teachers are coming in here like they're going to the club.
Right.
And there's nothing I can do about it.
When you look at this outfit, this is literally something you would see in the club.
But I'm going to have to side with her. I'm going to have to side with the teacher. K to 5 teacher, the dress in and of itself is not designed to be provocative. She's just a well-built, quote unquote.
Here's another picture.
Okay, no, that's not appropriate.
That's not appropriate?
That's not appropriate for a teacher. And I'm going to tell you why. Not only is that provocative, that's too casual. That's not a professional outfit. The dress could be argued that if I was working at a regular routine business, I could wear this to work. She could wear that dress to work. She could not wear those jeans and that top to work. So for me, I would take issue with the second outfit because it is provocative and it is not professional. The first one may be somewhat provocative, but it is still somewhat more professional than that. You don't go to school dressed like that.
Yeah, personally, I have an issue with it. I think that when you have a job, you should dress accordingly to that job. If you work on Wall Street, you don't come in with shorts and a tattered T-shirt.
But then the counter argument, my argument to you would be, who's more responsible? The employee, okay, or the system of education? Because she can come to work like that because they say this is acceptable. You understand? It's the same argument when we talk about crime in the African American community. Well, black men keep going back to jail. Why they can't stay out of jail? 87% recidivism rate. I understand that. Now let's talk about the box, the context in which the African American male exists. 1970, they systematically start removing all the industrial building trade programs from the inner city African American high schools. So up until 1970, you could go to high school, graduate, licensed to be a plumber, carpenter, electrician, mason, barber, over 12 trades. Most of us have grandparents, black and white, who was able to earn a decent living with a high school trades education. They took all them out in the 70s at the end of the Black Power movement on purpose to make sure independent black laborers could not finance the Black Power movement. And then in 1980, the CIA drops the crack cocaine off. And so black men unable to find a legal job participate in the CIA's illegal economy. Mind you, all the factory jobs that were available were shipped out of the inner city. Even in North Philadelphia, where I live, you drive around, nothing but abandoned factories. They moved them out to create a context for incarceration. So who is responsible when the black male is miseducated, economically castrated, comes out of jail, cannot find any opportunity to set his life aright, can't get welfare, can't get health care, can't get public housing, can't get student loans? So he breaks the law again and goes back. We look at him. How about the system that creates the reality that necessitates that I commit a crime? Take me. I'm 40 years old, never been to jail. I work in them. I do a lot of prison work, but I've never been arrested. Okay? Not yet. Anyhow, take my 6 degrees, take my doctorate, take my certs. Give me a felony on my record. I have 2 daughters. If I have to feed them, and my ability to earn a decent living was stolen, I would have to consider, desperation would make me consider going to the corner to sell that package. You understand? Which is why we got to be very careful about blaming the person or separating them from the context in which the behavior took place. The context in which she wore that dress is that the unions in the school district make it allowable. If we want to change the way she dresses, change the contract between the unions in the school districts.
Now, one of the things that you said when talking about your school is that with the teachers that you wanted to hire for the school, you won't allow any teachers who have relationships with people of other races.
Yes.
And so you wanted to only hire black teachers. So you're saying that that black teacher could not have a relationship with a white person, an Asian person, and so forth.
Not a romantic relationship. Not a romantic relationship.
Exactly, not a romantic relationship. Now, why is that? Because me personally, most of my relationships have been with women of other races.
Okay.
Now, why do you have such an issue with that in terms of your school?
Okay. Again, the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy, being based on the principles of Pan-Africanism, is based on the belief that we need healthy black families. Our children need to see strong black men with strong black women in positive African-centered heterosexual relationships. In America, black men marry outside their race more than the men of every other race put together in the United States marries outside of theirs, speaking of percentages. What is it about the black man that has him so addicted to any other woman except his own? And it is the psychology of self-hatred. Mind you, up until 1967, when the Supreme Court struck down in Loving versus Virginia, the final laws in the country against miscegenation, you hardly find a black man married to a white woman. You wasn't allowed. You end up strange fruit hanging from the tree. Jim Crow did not tolerate it. So soon when the Supreme Court overturns Loving, and the movie is coming out, I just saw it. There's a movie on the Loving Supreme Court case. The case that ultimately destroyed miscegenation laws is coming out soon. And I don't think that's a coincidence, by the way. But nonetheless, as soon as they struck that law down, black men went crazy. They went to find anything they could find that was not black because of the self-hate. If I look in the mirror and I don't like the way Umar Johnson looks, I definitely don't want my son or daughter resembling me. So what I'm going to do is conduct my own eugenics experiment. And I'm going to find a woman who has nothing in common with the women of my race. So when I look at my children, I don't have to see my ugly black face. And added to this is the fact that black women in America are the least likely to get married. Black women, only 1 out of 4 will get married. When I went to college, most of the white girls were married before we graduated. The black girls, some of them in their 40s, still not married. Most of this has to do with America's war against the black man that incarcerates and exterminates. But some of this also have to do with the fact that us educated black men, once we get our doctorate degrees, our advanced master's degrees, we think we're too good for the black woman, and we run out and go marry someone else's daughter. And then we bring a child into this world who's biracial, who, for my purposes, is an African. I don't play biraciality. If your mother is black or your father is black, you're African, because there is no 50-50 mix. The African is genetically dominant. We're not superior to no one, but we are genetically dominant. So that's an African child. I don't get into that. But working with biracial children, they go through a lot of psychological conflicts because you're half black and half white. You belong to the two most adversarial, dichotomous races on the planet, and you constantly have to navigate where you belong at. Even if you speak to biracial brothers in the hip hop industry, as swaggerlicious as they can be, when you sit down and have a conversation with a lot of them, they will tell you about the conflicts they had along the way arriving at their African identity. And a lot of this comes from the fact that the white mother that gives birth to the black child has a problem telling that child that you are black and going to have to learn how to exist as a black person. White mothers, in my experience, are less honest than white fathers. White fathers will tell their biracial child, you African. And I want you to understand that, because that's how the world is going to treat you. Mothers, and I believe it's due to racism, I believe the white mother that gives birth to the African child is conflicted, doesn't want to admit to herself that through her womb, she gave birth to an African. So she's more willing to have that child grow up thinking that I'm biracial, which doesn't even exist.
What do you think about the whole situation?
Man, my point of view, man, I really feel like they tried to paint a bad picture on my brother and tried to make him look like he was a hater. It was some envy, jealousy type shit, you know what I'm saying? And actuality, you know what I'm saying? Bro been having this shit, man. He been in the condo.
I got my hat on and I had my Coke bottles up under my hat. And I'm sitting at the dinner table like an asshole with the hat on, knowing she gonna tell me to take it off. And I'm just sitting there just gulping down, you know, in my zone. She said, take that goddamn hat off at the dinner table. I'm like, come on, mom. Coke everywhere.